So here I am in the southern Chiltern Hills at Clack's Farm on a beautiful day, and I'm stood in a wonderful green lane that's been created by planting 2 hedges all the way down about 700 metres. Hedges, we know, are wonderful in our countryside. They're important in the landscape. I actually think they define our landscape in the British Isles. But why were they there? Well, they were planted for 2 main reasons. One was to mark ownership, and the second was to keep animals in or indeed out of a field. They were supposed to be a living fence. But as we can see with this hedgerow next to me, it's grown tall and there are lots of gaps through the hedge, so wildlife and animals could actually get straight through onto the growing crop the other side. So one of the most important forms of management of hedgerows, which goes back a long, long way, is hedge laying, which involves cutting each stem, laying it over and forming a living hedge. And we're lucky enough to be going to hold the National Hedgelaying Championships here at the end of October.
So we've got a really nice mix of species along this hedge, haven't we? Which I think is great.
Definitely is. I reckon there's about 5 or 6 species, predominantly hawthorn. We've got some spindle, wayfaring tree, dogwood, a few other things. And that's brilliant, isn't it? Because in spring, because it hasn't been trimmed really hard, we're going to get lots of blossom and blossom at different times, which is really important for invertebrates right through the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all those berries there for things like redwing and fieldfares, those birds that will be coming in the winter.
Thousands of them coming down here, and this is what they come for. This food source, really rich vitamins and protein in these berries. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So we're at Crowmarsh Battle Farms, where the Chilterns Conservation Board have funded the National Hedgelaying Society's Championships via a Farming in Protected Landscapes grant. It's now the 29th of October. We first came down here beginning of October. The competition's been organised for this time when there's more of the leaves are coming off the hedge, and also there's usually less sap in the wood as well, so it's a better time to work a hedge. Obviously this year it's very mild, more leaves have been retained and so on, but that would be generally why you would leave this sort of management to later in the autumn. And hedge laying is one of those things that people aren't necessarily aware of, but it's a traditional way of managing hedges. It provides all sorts of benefits in terms of keeping the hedge alive and healthy. So it looks quite brutal, it looks quite a change, but the hedge grows back so brilliantly, and this is how hedges used to be managed in the past. So it's great for wildlife, because instead of getting cut every year really hard, the hedge kind of regenerates when it's cut and laid down and bound together with stakes and so on. All that new growth gradually comes up, and then at some point in the future it can be cut again, but the intervening years are fantastic for wildlife. But also there's that whole thing about the rural crafts that it support, that it's tied in with, that it's a traditional skill. And yes, okay, these days there's more use of chainsaws and things like that to do the work, but it is basically still those traditional ways of almost cutting through the stem and then bending that over and having all those stems going the same way to form a stock-proof hedge, which is what one of the big functions of hedges in the past.
We've got hedges of all ages and all descriptions and all conditions around the farm. We're an all arable farm, so hence no livestock, so we don't actually have hedges for their traditional reason, which is to delineate fields and keep animals in the fields. So over the years we have established hedgerows like this lot here in the mid-90s, but also we've tried to manage them. A lot of them we manage under various government stewardship schemes where the rules are fairly precise, so the management of most of them would be on a 3-year basis. So we have yellow hedges, green hedges and red hedges, so we know which year we're on. And on hedges like these we would probably have said, right, the one behind me would be done 1 year, or the top of it, the sides another year, or the other side another year, and the hedge behind you would be the same, so that we're not cutting every hedge every year. And in a big run like this, we are cutting some of it most years. We've occasionally done a little bit of hedge laying. One of my tractor drivers, who's now retired, actually he planted, with the other tractor driver that working here 25 years ago, he planted these hedges. Fancied to go at hedge laying, so he went off on a course and did little bits, but one man on his own, in amongst being a full-time tractor driver, doesn't get an awful lot done, because the hedge laying takes time and it takes money. Why hedge laying? Well, why today is because I just like the old crafts and it's nice to see them being done. The competitors enjoy getting together once a year, competing against their friends who perhaps some of them they only see once a year anyhow. And it's like ploughing matches. They are old rural crafts that have a place today, and that it's a lovely day out. So we had the hedge. We had somebody who had 100 or so hedge layers who wanted to compete in a competition, put the two together, and I think geographically they take it round the country, so they were probably looking for somewhere around here, and that's where we are.
So yeah, we've come along to the National Hedgelaying Competition today, held in Wallingford, just to get a few pointers on what we should be doing back in our small holding. And we had a great day, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been really good to see the different styles. We've had a little go ourselves. We're on a small holding in Chilterns in Buckinghamshire, but it's been really nice to see the different styles of hedge laying they've got here. Some of which we're a bit more familiar with, and then others less so. And looking at how they've done the binding, and
hopefully we'll pick up a few tips, won't we, for when we get back to it and start laying our own hedges again. So that's been a really good day.